Good morning. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, and we'll be looking at John 19. The 19th chapter of John is traditionally read on Good Friday in its entirety because the whole chapter is the story of the passion of Jesus Christ, the crucifixion, and the burial. And so we begin with Pilate. It seems that Pilate has been participating in desperate attempts to punish Jesus without killing him, to satisfy the crowds and the demands of these people that have brought Jesus before him, but not to have Jesus bled on his own hands. So there's a back and forth with the crowd, and this is a long chapter. It's 42 verses, and in the very end of it, you get a picture of Joseph of Arimathea, mentioned in the other Gospels, of course, and then he's linked in John's Gospel to Nicodemus, an important character in John's Gospel, but not mentioned at all in the other three. So Nicodemus, you'll remember from the very beginning, a pivotal character. This is the person that Jesus is speaking to when he says the famous words, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in him should not perish but have everlasting life." That was in the context of a conversation at night with a Pharisee named Nicodemus. And Joseph of Arimathea seems to want his own anonymity in the face of Pilate and the situation there. And so he goes secretly but boldly to Pilate to ask for Jesus' body. And it's mentioned there that he is accompanied by Nicodemus to bury the body of Jesus in his own tomb. And in John's Gospel, the tomb is adjacent to where the crucifixion happened. So because it's nearby, and also because it's the Passover and the sun was going down, they need to put Jesus' body in the tomb and do no more work because they're following the prescription for observing the holy day. And at the crucifixion, there is no ripping of the veil, no darkness. There's just Jesus crying out, "It is finished." And then he dies. And then we get this narrative about Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus helping. There's not even a mention of the time of day to mark it like it is in the other Gospels. So we get different pictures. And what this gives me is this, because they're all similar, they all have the same characters and same event, basically, I'd like to get a composite of the crucifixion, of the passion, to not maybe necessarily of the whole gospel, but a composite picture. And that's what we normally do liturgically in our worship services around Holy Week. We composite the four gospels narrative of passion narrative of Jesus. And so our traditions are built on a composite of the four gospels. However, John's Gospel, that chapter 19 that's traditionally read, there are some things missing. Of course, the rending of the veil in the darkness, and the notification of the hour, the marking of time. But at the same time, it's such a extensive picture of the crucifixion and death of Jesus, beginning with this back and forth with Pilate. Complete, because Pilate had been in chapter 18, and then Pilate continues into chapter 19, having these discussions with Jesus, asking questions and having them answered. Pilate is concerned about having Jesus blood on his hands. That's the character development that John gives us in his gospel. He tries to get out of having Jesus crucified, and they say, well, we don't have the power to do it ourselves, so we need you to do it for us. From then on, Pilate tried to release him, it says in verse 12, but the Jews cried out. And when he says the Jews, he means those leaders in the community at the time, not all Jews from everywhere. Those people that are trying to persecute Jesus, and it should be mentioned that way. If you release this man, you are no friend of the emperor, and everyone who claims to be a king sets himself against the emperor. And this is how Pilate gets back at them. He goes ahead, does what he has been asked to do. Here's your king. And they say, away with him, crucify him. And Pilate says, shall I crucify your king? And they say, we have no king but Caesar. Okay. The emperor, what says in this translation. And then, so he does have him crucified. We know that. He carries his cross to Golgotha, and he is crucified in between two others. They had written on the placard above Jesus' head, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, in 3 languages. And what happens is, this is how he gets him back, because Pilate has this orders this sign to be made and placed above him. And the chief priests and the Jews said to Pilate, do not write the King of the Jews, but this man said, I am the King of the Jews. See the difference there? Like, they don't want people to say, oh, this was the King of the Jews. They want people to say, this guy thought he was the King of the Jews. Pilate answered, I have written what I have written. I'm done. Done. No more. And so that's how he gets them back, because they get so mad. They're like, you can't write that. You don't write that above this. So he gets back at them that way. And then we just get into the emotional parts of the story. They divided his clothes. They didn't want to rip his tunic because it was all woven in one piece. And it's fulfilling scripture because they're casting lots for his clothing. And standing near the cross, it mentions Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene, and Mary, Jesus' mother as well. So the 3 women were there. And then the disciple whom Jesus loved, who we get, we'll see this in the future. So foreshadowing that it is somehow linked to the writer of this gospel. So we commonly think of this as being the disciple named John, the one that Jesus loved. But what Jesus does is he's taking care of household matters and maybe critiquing political situation at the time by saying, woman to his mother, this is now your son. Because if your son dies before you do, and you're a widow, which maybe Mary was, you have no one to, you're poor. You have no one to earn for you, because there's, women are not given the same opportunities as men, and so they're destitute. So take care of your widows and your orphans. That's all through scripture. And so Jesus ensures a good life for his mother by entrusting her care to the disciple whom he loved. And he does that from the cross. And so Jesus is taking care of matters there. And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. After this, when Jesus knew that was now finished, in order to fulfill the scriptures, he drank the sour wine, and he said, it is finished, and then bowed and gave up his spirit. That's the way that John tells the story of Jesus' death. Then there's a part about his side being pierced and not his legs not being broken because of fulfilling another, again, prophecy. Told you there was going to be a lot of prophecy in this one. Fulfilled prophecy that his no bones in his body would be broken. So that takes place, and they will look on the one they have pierced, because they pierced his side. And so then I told you the story about Jesus being buried, and that is how the chapter ends. The women have gathered together spices to anoint Jesus' body, but they're going to hold off because of the Sabbath, because the sun was going down, and the Jewish day of preparation for Passover. And so they weren't allowed to touch any dead bodies or do any kind of work or preparation in that way on that day. And they had to wait until the sun came up on Sunday morning to anoint Jesus' body in burial. And that's where we leave. Kind of a cliffhanger. I mean, if you're reading this story for the first time, you're like, he's dead? What? They killed him? He died? And then he said he'd be raised again. And I know there's like a few more pages in the book. So it's like that expectant. It's like a pregnant novel. You know, it's ready. There's something else going to happen here. It's going to be glorious. It's going to be miraculous. But today is Friday. I know today is Wednesday, but in the story, it is Good Friday in chapter 19 of John's Gospel. So I leave you with that. A bit of a cliffhanger, but one of, the greatest story ever told. God bless you.